Hi, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Stassi. Thank you so much for being here today. I just want to say happy last day of Pride to everybody out here. I hope everyone had really good Pride celebrations this year. I know for a lot of people, this was the first time going out to do Pride celebrations since the pandemic. So I hope you guys had a great time. I am so excited to have the Mom Cave returning here today and first time guest, Coach Alex Ray. Thank you guys both for coming here today.
Of course.
Yay!
Thank you so much for having us.
Oh my gosh, the pleasure is all mine. I am so excited to dive in and talk more about mental health. This is a topic that I could go blue in the face talking about because we need to talk about mental health and we need to end the stigma together. Before we dive in, as always, let's do a quick round of introductions. Mom Cave, why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
Absolutely. I think many who are watching this are familiar with Mom Cave. And if you're not, I've been a content creator for three years now. I have a series on YouTube called The Curse that is now in its third season. I also create Sims content on Instagram and now branching out into TikTok. When I'm not creating, I am an emotional wellness coach and have recently niched my coaching in private practice towards content creators. And I'm excited to be back here with Stassi and my friend and colleague, Alex.
Well, I'm excited to have you back. And I want to say congratulations for winning at the Machinima Awards.
Thank you.
You are very welcome. Welcome, Alex.
Hello.
Hello. Why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Alex Ray. I am the queer confidence coach. I help LGBTQIA plus humans just love being their authentic self, stand up for themselves, and have their own back. And I got here because I had a really sucky mental health journey personally and had been in and out of therapy, still have been in and out of therapy since second grade. I'm currently seeing a therapist and it's wonderful. But a lot of my mental health kind of stayed hovering just above rock bottom until I actually hit it in 2017. And it was after that that I realized, okay, I really got to take my mental health into my hands too. I can't just sit back and let someone else like show up to therapy expecting someone else to fix me. Mm-hmm. And through that journey, like coaching was a huge help for me. I was like, I really want to be able to offer this to other people. And I think I always knew that I would do something to help others. I just didn't know what it would look like. And now we have this title, the Queer Confidence Coach.
That is amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming here today. And thank you for sharing that little brief about yourself. It is hard to hit rock bottom. But once you hit rock, you know when you hit rock bottom. And the old saying is there's only one way you can go is up. But up is a journey. Up is not in a day. Up is not in a month. Up it cannot even sometimes be in a year. It's the pace that you want to go. So thank you for coming here, sharing your journey. And I cannot wait to hear more as this podcast goes on. Now, typically I don't have questions for these things. I got questions this time. I came prepared.
Oh yeah.
And by prepared, my phone is over here. So Mom Cave, why don't you start us off with the first question?
Yeah. Are you going to ask it or you might ask it?
Who's
hosting this thing, me or you?
Oh, you can host this. This is totally fine. Okay, so the first question is, what is something that you knew you wish you knew when you started content creating?
Something I wish I knew when I started that I know now. So something I know now that I wish I knew when I started creating content. And there's a couple things. I think the first thing I wish I knew was how detrimental to my mental health comparison can be, right? And I'll just kind of speak for myself, is getting into this content creation was being inspired by other content creators, like, oh, that's so cool, look what they're doing, right? And then just experiencing kind of going into that and really investing time and energy and just myself and my stories, and then kind of feeling that kind of high or that excitement when other people start to like your stories and you kind of gain some visibility and some notoriety, and you kind of grow in that way, and how easy it is for your eye to wander then back to other creators to compare yourself to them and to say, well, I'm not this, or look at them, they're doing this thing, but I'm not doing that thing. Maybe I should do that thing. Maybe if I did that thing, I'd have their thing. And I think if I had known that from the beginning, starting out, versus kind of experiencing it and realizing for myself, like, that's just not healthy, and forgetting, what happens is you forget your why. So I think that brings me to the next one, is just remembering, if you're starting out creating content, if you've been creating content for a long time, or wherever you are in the journey of creating content, don't forget your why. I actually was talking to my therapist about this today, about how, I just got back from VidCon, and, there were moments, I'm not going to lie, there were moments where, I see these kind of throngs of people running towards these creators and thinking, wow, what do you got to do to be that big? And then I kind of stopped myself and said, I don't necessarily want that. Like, that's not my why. And I think if you remember your why, and if you remember that we don't need another Claire Schwan, we don't need another, all of these other bigger creators, and these others I've never heard of, when I was there myself. We don't need them. We just need the creator that you are. And then I think the second thing that I actually just dawned on me, and Alex, I almost text you. I'm like, oh my gosh, I had this epiphany, right?
Oh my God, I cannot wait to hear this.
Yes. Is that imposter syndrome is real.
Mm-hmm.
It's real, especially when it comes to content creation. And I've been kind of thinking about and working with a wonderful coach named Alex, and friends, and just kind of think about, like, where are my blocks? And one of the things I realized is that imposter syndrome. And I realized, just this thing clicked in my head of, I've been thinking about, well, when I'm a YouTuber, when I'm a content creator, when I'm an Instagrammer, is that a word? It is.
Yes.
It is now, right? And it's like, no, wait a minute. You are a YouTuber. You are a content creator, because you know what? You have a presence and you upload content.
Mm-hmm.
That makes you the thing that you want to be. You are that thing. You are that person. And then living into that. And so I think for me, it was just that realization that I wish I would have had earlier on, of that, you don't have to have 10,000, 15,000 subscribers. You don't have to have even 100 subscribers. You can have 5 subscribers. You can have 1 subscriber. You could have, you and your dog. It doesn't matter. The thing is, it takes courage to even put something out there into the universe. And so when you've done that, you have become a content creator. So living in that and being confident and proud of yourself, I think, is really, really important. So I think those were 2 really big ones for me that I really have been contemplating, or not contemplating, but just marinating on a bit for myself, just especially over the last week, of remembering my why, not comparing myself to others, and just being proud of the fact that I'm a content creator. It's what I wanted to do, and it's what I do. I'm doing the thing. So, yeah.
Well, I think that's definitely really amazing. I was actually going to talk about imposter syndrome at some point throughout this podcast. I've just started to experience it for the first time, and like literally today, I was on my way to work, and I was like, I think I should probably call this podcast a day. Like, I don't deserve this. Like, you guys just come and listen to me. Like, you guys can do like other things with your life. Like, I'm not that important. Like, I literally considered today just like, no, I'm good. Like, I should probably just throw this in. And then my other side of the brain was like, what the hell are you talking about? The fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
You worked so hard for this. Like, you've earned everything that you've just achieved. And the other brain's like, yeah, but like, you're kind of an imposter, man. Like, you're just like a girl that like showers like once a week. Like, and you now have people looking up to you. Like, choose your role models. And it's just kind of like, oh my God. Because I'm now having people saying, like, so like me and my best friend, like we love Kelsey and Peach K. We watched the 100 Baby Challenge. We love her.
Mm-hmm.
We used to say, like, I wonder what it would be like to be her friend. I bet you she'd be so cool. Now people are saying that to me, like, oh, I bet you being friends with Stassi is so cool. And I was like,
it is.
Yeah, yay. But like, it's just like, like people will message me, they're like, I was on a 3-hour drive and listened to your podcast and it really inspired me. Or like people are starting to tell me like my podcast inspires them to do things. And I'm like, okay, I make fart jokes. Okay, that's not pressure. That's not pressure to always being the best version of myself all the time and never making a mistake ever. Okay, that's fine. But I could not agree more. Alex, how about you? What did you know now that you wish you knew when you started?
It's such a good question. There are so many things probably that I wish I knew when I started, but I think the biggest theme for me is not to get my value from what other people are saying or commenting, or how many likes things are getting or how many followers I have. And it's challenging because social media companies do set up the sites and apps in such a way that on purpose they are specifically engineered to trigger that part of our brain. And it is literally like a fight to constantly be like, oh wait, hold on, shit, does that actually matter? Do I actually need to get my validation for like, am I a worthy human being from the reaction I'm getting from these strangers out on the internet? That's the most challenging part for me. And I don't have like I haven't arrived at a point of perfection where I don't I think worry more than I really want to about what people like, how much attention content that I create is getting. But that lesson, I think I'm much further along than day one. What was it, like 6 years, like 5.5 years ago? Yeah.
Which is so true. That's so true.
It is true. And like you've come so far, and like it's like social media is a completely different beast now, even than it was before the pandemic versus now, because now you have more kids tuning in, especially on YouTube. And like I make sure that like this content is behind an 18A paywall. Like not paywall, but like this content is not meant for children. But that's something that I know a lot of people struggle with on YouTube, is like, oh, like I make these videos, but like they're all for kids and that's all the view count. And then what goes after that? Right? Like they're not buying anything. They're just watching your video. I mean, yeah, they're watching the video to the end because they're a kid and they don't understand to like turn it off. But I do appreciate that seeking validation. I used to gauge my day of how many listens I got. If I had a lot of listens in a day, I had a great day. If I had no listens in a day, I had a bad day. Even if you could have given me $1 million on a day I had no listens, I probably would have just been miserable. I would have been like, yeah, but like, I just put out like a new podcast yesterday. How the fuck do I not have more listens? Like, I thought this was going to be like the best one ever, but it was like, and as soon as one doesn't get a lot of listens, you're like, oh, okay, I'm back. But the ones you think are going to get the most traction don't. And the ones you don't think are going to get any traction do. And that is the truest thing. That's something I wish I'm still learning, is I'll rush out content and I'll be like, this is going to get me to the next level. And it gets nowhere.
Yes.
Same every fucking time. I have never put out something and been like, this is it. And then it was it ever. It's, and typically the stuff that's most popular, I'm like, why? I didn't put any effort into that. I didn't care about that thing that I made. And then it's a real mindfuck. It's very confusing.
Yes.
I've seen so many, I've experienced so many creators who have been, to your point, Alex, have been so tied up in the numbers as their identity.
Yes.
That's, it's like if I remember recently when Twitter started putting where you could see how many people viewed your so you could see how many people viewed your post. And like there was the number of views and then the number of likes. There are people literally comparing the two in these posts, like, oh my gosh, 600 people have seen this, but only 10 people like this. Like for in some way that makes them less of a human. And that just makes me like sad, thinking, who cares?
Right.
Do you know? I mean, I'm sitting there thumbing through stuff all the time, and I don't like everything. I'm just kind of thumbing through it mindlessly. It's just the human nature. And I think that is so important to not wrap. Okay, so on the one hand, we do put a lot of ourselves into our content. So yes, it's going to feel good when other people are excited about it too.
Absolutely.
And everybody doesn't have to be excited about it for it to be valid and exciting. You know, it's fine. I remember my very first couple episodes. They're shit. They're absolute trash. They're absolute trash. But I kept them up. You know why? Because people watch them and they liked them. And I remember getting my first views on that. Like, oh my gosh, other people like it too. But it doesn't matter, because I was so excited to put that content out that I did it again, and I did it again, and I did it again, and I did it again, just because it's so exciting to tell the story, because it's what I love to do. And it's when a creator loses that why, or loses that passion and excitement to do it again, that they start to kind of, you know, wrap a lot of our a lot of the identity in that engagement.
It's when you sorry, Alex, go ahead.
Well, I was going to add to that, like, identity and belonging. I think we also can get caught up in the, like, do I matter? Do I belong? Am I worthy of love? Do people care about me? Am I important? All of that. And to just like reiterate exactly what Connie said, like I so agree with you that, like, yeah, it is, when you create, what we're creating is art. And so when you create art and it should feel good when people appreciate it. Of course, we don't want to be numb to appreciation.
No.
But also knowing that, like, hey, this doesn't actually, separating our art from ourself can be helpful in remembering that, like, the amount of attention that this gets, it does feel good to get attention, and it does it's okay to be disappointed if not more people are liking it. But what we really don't want to do is start tying our personal worth or belonging to that piece of content that we created. And especially since we don't ultimately have control over who sees it or how many people see it. When we post something on any of these sites, we are once we've created it, we are no longer in control of it once we put it out there. And so that can also feel very scary and feel very, like, out of control, to put your worth and value into something that you ultimately only have the creation control over and nothing else.
Yes. Oh,
there's another side to that pancake too, right? There's another side to that, is not just the appreciation. The more visibility you get, the more negative comments you can get.
Absolutely.
And I can't tell you how many creators I've seen get completely unhinged by a dislike.
Right.
And like, as if that somehow speaks to their worth. So that's a great point, Alex, that once we put it out there in the universe, and that's, I mean, therein lies the courage of being content creator. It's out there. Once you put it, unless you make it private or you delete it. Don't do that. But if you do, unless you do, you're going to put out there, and anybody can say anything about your content.
Yeah.
It's part of it.
I don't read comments on my stuff or look at the like counts anymore. It's very, very rare that I will see, like, a comment and I might reply to that, but I purposely try not to see how many likes something gets or views. I mean, I will accidentally see it sometimes, but I know for my own mental health, if the less I see, the better. And
Mhm.
then I feel a little bit better about actually creating more things.
Oh, not a bad practice.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think that's really good. I mean, I equivalent it to, so like I've had an eating disorder. I would still say I still have it. It's a part of me, will always be a part of me, but it's like stepping on the scale. I still to this day cannot own a scale in this house.
Yeah.
And I've just lost a bunch of weight because me and Nard Villain, shout out Nard Villain, friend. It's our last day, baby. Me and Nard have been doing no additive sugar and low carbs all this month. We've been each other's accountability coaches. We have helped each other through thick and thin throughout this month. And I was just at home a couple weeks ago for Father's Day, and everyone kind of looked at me like, you've lost a lot of weight. Like, how have you lost it? This is the first question to everyone. I was like, I've done it. I'm just not eating no sugar. And they're like, so you're just not eating? I'm like, no, I'm just not eating like low sugar and like all this good stuff. And they're like, okay. So my mom caught me sneaking her scale. And she's like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, like, what are you doing in my room? I was like, oh, I just wanted to see how much you weigh. And she like took it from me. She's like, no, you're good. You don't need to know. Because she knew whatever number I thought it was not going to be good enough, right? So it's the same idea with likes.
Yeah.
It's just, it's never good enough. Or you find happiness of being like, oh, like it's great, like this is like awesome, like it's getting traction, and then the next post says nothing and you get all negative vibes and you're like, why the fuck do I do that? It's like you're constantly battling yourself on this circle of being like, oh my God. Like for my main Stassi page, I have not gained a new follower in almost a week and a half until yesterday. That's rare. If anything, I was losing followers. And I was like, why? What have I done? Nothing. And then today I gained 15 and I was like, oh, cool. I guess I'm back. But a lot of people, that's how they gauge their happiness, is how many followers they have. I will also say, I have had people decline to be on this podcast because I don't have enough followers for their audience. So that's kind of fucked.
I think one of the things that creators can do is educate yourself on how algorithms work and how platforms work. So for example, YouTube, research it. Because YouTube actually purges bots. I think it's I don't know if it's like every other week or once a week, but they go through these bot cleanses where you might gain, oh gosh, I just gained like 15 subscribers. Well, how did I just lose 6 or 7 or whatever? Because YouTube is built to purge bots. And so if accounts are inactive, it could purge of those subs. And I've heard some creators get upset. Well, why are they taking that away? And my question is, do you really want that? That's not authentic. Do you want a subscriber? Do you want a number? Do you want a human who's actually there and interested in who you are as a creator, right? And so really just shifting the mindset of that, of saying when those numbers are purged, it's making room for authentic subscription. So the same thing with Instagram, Stassi, to what you're saying, is Instagram does the same thing. Is you'll gain these followers, and then Instagram's going to purge them if it's a bot. So you have all these bot accounts where you have follow, all the different things, but don't gauge it from that. Don't gauge it, period. But if you're kind of looking at that, if that's maybe that is your why, I don't know. But know the platform, educate yourself on the platform, educate yourself on the algorithms, how they work, why they work, what does and doesn't. Don't listen to your best friend, or I heard this, they do this, or I heard that, or don't listen to that, because 10 out of 10 times it's not true. Research it, research how the algorithms work. There's plenty of information out there so that you understand your core platform. So if your platform is TikTok, research how TikTok algorithms work. They're very interesting. Research how YouTube algorithm works. Research how these platforms work, so that as your numbers ebb and flow, which they're going to, when there's a stall, when there's a pause, you kind of understand there's all kinds of tips and tricks from people who have been doing this for a long time that you can glean from. So if you really are someone who's interested in growing your platform to a certain number, if you have those goals, make sure you're educating yourself on how to do that in a way that's healthy and wise and follows the way the platform is designed.
Well, I definitely think that is phenomenal advice, especially everyone always asks I'm a social media manager. They're like, Jen, how do you beat the algorithm? And I was like, if I had that answer, I would be charging more than $30 an hour for my time. But it's true. If people, like, as a social media manager, the first question I always get is, how do you beat the algorithm? And the question is you don't. It changes consistently all the time, especially right now on Instagram. If anybody is wondering why you're not getting as many likes every day anymore, you can no longer search the most recent hashtag. It doesn't show you anymore. It shows you the top ones, but it won't show you the most recent. So that's how a lot of smaller creators are starting to fall through the cracks now, because they're only showing the creators that have 10,000 or above followers for top posts. And that's going to hurt a lot of people.
It is. It is. And hashtags are kind of useless now anyways. They really are. I learned that this week, is that really hashtags. I mean, people put 1,800 hashtags in their posts. You don't need them because they really don't do much.
No. I'm literally currently shadow banned for Rose Chronicles. Don't know why. And they said they're like, stop using hashtags. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And I got more traction than I did with hashtags being shadow banned, because my content was being shown to the top instead of to the bottom. But if you would have asked me 6 months ago, I would have said, throw in 30 hashtags, baby, 30 opportunities to get seen, because that's literally what they taught us in school. So it's changed. Yeah. So it's always continuously changing. The algorithm has changed from January to June, and by December it'll be something completely different.
Yep.
So anyways, let's move on to the next question, unless you guys want to continue to follow up with that. So this is definitely something that I need a lot of help with, because I burnt bridges this past year. So question number 2 is, how do you find the balance with real life, family, work, and being a content creator? I've really struggled with this past year. I didn't go home for a lot of family gatherings. I didn't go to a lot of my partner's family gatherings because I was so busy filming content that people just thought I were mad at them. I just didn't want to do it, or I was playing a game. Like, they didn't fully understand that this is a full-time job. And it was just really disheartening to kind of just feel like, oh, it's just another event she's not here for kind of idea. So I promised myself I would never do that again. So I would love an answer to this question, because I've really fucked up a lot of relationships with a lot of people being a content creator.
So. Alex?
Would you
like to start?
Sure. I have done similar things where I like miss on things. Back in 2017, is when I started doing fitness and nutrition coaching. And it was all like online based. And there was a big event for the company that I worked with. And at the time, the only way that I had any income was through selling their products. And I chose to go to their event instead of my grandmother's funeral. And it's still a decision that to this day kind of haunts me a little bit, because I would absolutely go to her funeral next time. Also, fuck that company. I hate them now. So, but at the time, like I had only been in it for like 6 months, and I really got caught up in that. So I think the first piece of advice I would give is be gracious with yourself. The decisions that we made yesterday are not the decisions we also need to make tomorrow. And it's okay to also admit, hey, at the time that seemed like the right decision, but now I wish I had done something differently, and I'm going to do something differently in the future. For me, it was about kind of looking at my values and looking at how those kind of stack up. To me, the close relationships in my life are more important than the money or the fame or the attention I could potentially get through my work as a content creator. And so I've like taken a look at the different aspects of my life, and this is not, I'm not saying this is the right way for everyone, but like I looked at the different kind of pillars of my life and looked at, okay, here's the rank in which they're the of importance now, and that may change also later. At the time back then in 2017, work and career in the future was more important than family or friends or anything. And now it's kind of flipped for me. My close relationships are the most important to me. I think my like financial stability in the immediate future is also higher important than the long run for me today. That will probably flip again at some point. And then the attention that I could get now, even though I fucking love attention, like please, I love followers. I love it. I love it. I love being on stage, whether it's virtually or in person. I love it. But it is lower importance to me now. Like if I were to risk a close relationship in order to have the fame or attention, I would most likely pick the relationship over the opportunity. So the short of that is you got to figure out, hey, here are the different areas of my life, and here are how important they are, or rank their importance as of today, and it can change.
I definitely agree. Sorry, Mom Cave, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say the values is what resonates with me, because those change in different seasons. I think back to 2020 when I started creating, and it was about connection, and we were connecting as this creative community, and it really consumed. But then that evolved into this brand, for lack of a better word. It became the Mom Cave, and then I was asked to do this thing. Sure, I'll do it. I got excited and asked to do this thing. Sure, I'll do that. And then all of that started to get bigger and bigger, and then my ideas started to get bigger and bigger. And then I was asked to be the editor of Machinima magazine. There's never been one in the 30 years of Machinima, and here I was the editor. It was kind of this big thing. I was like, yeah, it's a great opportunity. I'd love to do that. That is so cool. And it was, and then I had, I was starting to launch into voice machinima, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it got bigger and bigger. And then I got asked to do more things, until finally it just became too much because work started getting busier. And then I had a grandchild, and I was trying to hold so tightly to everything. I couldn't hold anything anymore. And then, things with the magazine started to not work, and it didn't work out. And so, I had to let that go, and my mental health kind of started to decline a little bit. And then work started to get very stressful and really hard. And then my mental health started to decline a little bit more. And so I think the experience I had last year, it was actually last year, almost in 4 days ago, or in 4 days, it'll be 1 year that I called my doctor, and my doctor yanked me out of work for 2 months because my mental health had gotten that bad. And I'm glad she did, because I was able to just take a step back and think about what are my priorities. And content creation was a priority for me, but not at the expense of my health, not at the expense of my family. And I think balance needs to look like whatever is your priority in your life. And if that means that you have to stop creating for a little while, which I've done over the last year, I wouldn't say I haven't stopped creating, but I've certainly, really, really slowed down. Sometimes you have to do that. You have to take that break to take a step back and I had to reprioritize, shift things around, get the help I needed to get my mental health back to where it needed to be, and then just reprioritize. And now here I am a year later, 3 years into my content creation, a year after this really pivotal moment in just my life. And I'm so glad that I took that time. I'm so glad I let the things go that I let go. And I'm so glad I've held on to the things. But balance can be hard, especially when we do get that hyper focus on these things and then another things and then another thing, right? That we can lose sight of what is truly important. So taking those steps out of it is important so you can kind of get a better view of everything. And the other thing I want to say is that, and I've just started doing this recently because I realized I was feeling pressure. And, I think I've talked to Alex about this too, is I was feeling pressure to create because the viewers were not, I'm not going to say viewers are pressuring. They're not pressuring me. They're excited, right? They're coming back and saying, hey, when are we going to get this? When are we going to get that? And just feeling this like sense of obligation to them. And then realizing, but I'm tired, or I want to do this. I'm focusing on this other thing right now. And I don't have enough energy to do both, or I need to focus on work right now. Started this new job in January, and I need to focus on that. Or my daughter needs me to babysit. I need to do these real life things, or I just need rest. And so I've been allowing myself to do human things, whereas before I realized what was different is I would say, no, I'm not going to do that because I have to get this episode out. Right? I have to get this episode out. Whereas now I'm thinking, no, you know what? I really want to get this episode out. I'm working on it, but it's going to be at a snail's pace because I'm going to go lay out in the backyard and play with my new puppies, or I'm just going to go sit and watch shit TV with my husband so that he can see my face. Right? So you can be like, hey, do I still have a wife, or are you just going to live in the mom cave for the rest of your life? Because I'm just kind of curious about that. I'd like to see you, so just reprioritizing so that the people around you still have that time and energy that they need, while also holding firm to saying, and this is something I love doing that I'm not going to give up, but I'm going to do it in a way that's more balanced. But you really, really sometimes have to take a break to reprioritize.
See, I think that's really good advice. This is something that I was talking to with Nardvellen, because we also did a mental health as content creator, because we were both at that point when we were on two opposite ends of burnout, which is actually the next question. He was at the beginning and I was at the end. So I had already gone through all this stuff, and it was just another round of burnout. And what I said, I was like, I was so scared if I didn't create as many episodes that I did, that you guys would stop caring. And I was so stressed and I'm tired. Like right now, I haven't had a good night's sleep in about a month. I think that would be pretty generous to say. I have a lot of plates that I'm juggling. I'm just mental health, but getting married it comes with a lot of stress, a lot of unwanted stress with everybody's opinions. Everybody has unwanted opinions. And it's just, there's that, and a new job and podcast and a new series. And I really found myself just, well, I could focus on the bridesmaids tonight, or I could film a podcast episode about cheese. Which one do you think I'm going to go with? Because it's the podcast episode, because it makes me more comfortable, makes me feel more relaxed. Talking about bridesmaids, I don't know what the bridesmaids' hair is going to look like. Honest to God, I don't even give a fuck at this point. As long as it's hair or no hair, I don't care. Just
wear a hat. I don't care.
I don't care. But like 3 years ago, me would have been like, okay, oh my God, okay, I want half barrel curls at this length, and like, but I was more of a control freak back then. But now I'm just like, okay, y'all do you figure it out. But that comes with age and that comes with time. Like if there was a part of me, again with imposter syndrome, that's today being like, I can't be doing this into my 40s. I'll be 30 this year. And this has been a really fun ride in my last couple of years in my 20s, but I can't be 6-7 podcasts a week in my 40s. I have different priorities at that time. So, but thank you, Alex and the Mom Cave, for answering that. Now let's talk about some burnout. As I was just saying, everybody experiences it at some point or another. It really just depends on the different types of burnout that you're experiencing, or why are you feeling burnt out. So I'm really curious to hear both of your thoughts on what it's like to have burnout. Have you ever had burnout? If so, how were you able to get over it? And I'll start with Alex. You're on mute, love.
Thank you. You'd think I'd be good after so many years on Zoom, never make a mistake and be perfect. Guess not. Okay, let's see. Wait, what was the question on burnout?
Burnout.
My experience. Oh my God. So, I mean, this is great timing. I'm kind of on what may end up being in the end like a year-long hiatus for my podcast. I had been doing a podcast since, I can't remember. Did I start it in 2020? I think I did. I think a little bit before the pandemic started. I started the podcast. And rebranded it a couple times. And at the end of November, I was like, okay, it is time to take a break. I've been putting out one episode a week for years now, and I like cannot handle this anymore. And so I took a break. It was supposed to be a 3-month break, and I have not gotten back to it yet. So this is June, almost the end of June the following year. So it's been a 7-month break at this point. And I don't have a date when I'll get back to it yet. I do want to get back to it. I love podcasting. I enjoy it a lot. But it's a low priority for me right now. There are other things going on in my life that are really high priority for me, around my relationship, my career, like establishing my life out here in San Diego. I moved here a year ago. So it goes back to my priorities changed. And even though it's kind of sad to me because I really enjoy podcasting and I had so much positive feedback about the podcast, I needed to take a break, and I trust that I will return to it when it's the right time. I have dealt with burnout for years in different areas, but I did not address it this way. And I have to say, even though this way is the most like kind of humbling way and the way that has felt most awkward, and I'm glad that I have chosen to work through the shame or the guilt for pausing for longer than anticipated. I would rather have that discomfort than the discomfort of continuing to like push through. And I've done that before, and it really degraded like my view on life. And I don't know, I'm just enjoying life now.
Honestly, Alex, I think that was so beautifully said. I couldn't like it's amazing. Thank you for sharing. Burnout can be a lot. I get it to podcast. Like right now, I cannot picture me not filming a podcast. That is just so far out of my realm. I've been filming podcasts 2 years come this September. It'd be 2 years of this. And the whole point with me to end my season was to give me like a 6-month break. And I was like, yeah, let's create a new series. Let's continue it. But I created a new series for two reasons: to continue to talk about real topics that were missed in the Sims ones. Also sponsorships, baby. Money. Getting married. This is a job. And because this podcast is now monetized, more listens, more money, more podcasts, right? So you're right about shifting priorities, because right now my number one priority is spending time with my fiance, because we did a love language podcast and all I kept saying is I just miss him because we're not seeing each other, because he doesn't like, I don't want him to be here when I'm filming 10 hours of podcast in one day. And what the fuck's he supposed to do? Downstairs and headphones crying in the corner, hoping that like I stop or take a break? Like, there's nothing he can do, right? So like he started going to his parents, and then I stayed here, and then I stayed here more, and then I got a new job, and I don't have as much time off as he does, so I had to be very picky of the time off I took, and missing more family events, and it's just snowballing. But anyways, long story short, I cannot wait for you to come back to your podcast. But if I can offer one piece of advice, which is the smallest piece, is take back your posting schedule. Take it back. And when you're ready, release your posting schedule. Because I have people screaming at me right now. I don't want to be on Real Life with Stassi. I want to be on Stassi J Unplugged season 3. I want to talk about Sims. And I'm like, I don't know when Sims 3 is filming. It's part 3 is failing. I have no idea. And they're like, how do you not know? You even figured that out? I'm like, no, I'll let you know when I know. And they're like, oh. And that was my promise to myself, is I'm going to bring back my posting schedule. Because like right now, I'm releasing 2 to 3 podcasts a week. And I am tired.
Yeah.
I'm very tired. But great advice. Mom Cave, how about you? Burnout. Talk to me about burnout.
Well, I think for me, I know that I'm burning out when I'm no longer passionate about something. And when the inspiration has kind of left me, I think I'm starting to notice that with filming machinima. I'm not going to stop filming machinima, but I've noticed that with that part of my creativity is that I wouldn't say the passion's gone, but definitely the inspiration isn't there. It's a struggle. It was kind of, this season was a struggle anyways to find story, but I was finally getting on a roll. But I think that kind of goes away a little bit. And I haven't always been really good at identifying that I'm getting burned out until I'm like at critical mass. But I think this last year has taught me otherwise, to say no to things before it gets to that point, and really give myself grace that I don't have to do all of the things, and not listen to the outside influences as much of what I should be doing or what people want me to be doing, and listen more to what I need to be doing for me, period. End of discussion. There's no other punctuation to put at the end of that sentence, is I'm going to do me, period. And that's going to look different on every different day. So on a day that, you know what, I have this goal, right? I have this goal that I want to work 3 hours every night from 9 to midnight, right? That's when my creative brain's going. And if I work that much on, on content, then at least I'm getting something done. And that feels good to me. That's sustainable. But if I see 7 clients or 6 clients in a day, that's not going to happen, because I'm so emotionally drained, excuse me, by the end of that day, that there's no way. I need to sleep. I need to rest. I need to just not be doing anything. What I don't need to be doing is filming a machinima, because that takes brain. It takes a lot of brain to do. And I don't have any brain left at that point. So I've learned to give myself the grace to, yes, have the goals, but then also listen to myself. So if at the end of the day, I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to take my bath. I'm going to go to bed, and I'm not going to do anything. And that's, kind of been par for the course lately. So I got COVID a while back. And since I got COVID, I don't know if I got long COVID or what, but just my energy levels just aren't there. And so by the end of the day, I'm exhausted. I'm tired and I need to sleep. And so I've been listening to my body more. And as I'm doing that, I'm noticing the burnout is easier. But I think the statistic is, 90% of creators report burnout. I would say those are who reports burnout, not those who experience. I would wager it's much higher than that. And most of those creators quit because it can become so overwhelming. And then so you stop, right? And Alex, kind of as you shared, you stopped, and then you're working through kind of that shame or that guilt of stopping, or those thoughts of, what if I'm not relevant anymore? What if I lose all of the traction? that I've built. And that, I mean, it's a fair question, but you have to question the question of, is that really, I mean, if you've really built that traction, if you're stopping, you're going to be able to pick back up. And so I think listening to myself first, whether it's I'm feeling inspired and I want to create, and so I'm not going to listen to these outside influences to say that I should be doing these other things when I don't need to be, or that I'm tired and I want to rest, or I want to just do other things. Not listening as much to the outside influence of hearing the shoulds from that, and kind of releasing myself from those expectations. Because to be fair, you know, the life part of this is important. And if I'm not loving what I'm doing, if I stop loving what I'm doing, then it's really not worth my time and energy. And that's not something I want to lose. In fact, I was talking to my therapist today about that. We were talking about burnout. We were talking about that. And one thing I told her is that quitting has, no matter how tired I was or how frustrated I was or how, and I mean, I've been through some stuff with this content creation and in the community and all kind of things, but never once did I think of quitting. I wouldn't say I didn't think of quitting. Never once did I seriously consider it where I would have done it, because that doesn't feel like an option for me. And so I think that that's what I want to maintain. I want to maintain that grit to where I'm going to be able to find enough balance between family. Again, it goes back to priorities, between family, work, what I need to do, what I want to do, and what I am going to do. And then just kind of finding that balance so that I can take care of myself first. Because if you don't take care of yourself first as a creator, you're no good to your fans, because you're going to burn out.
I think that's really good advice of just, you have to take care of yourself first. And because we're always so conscious, but like, okay, but like, our fans want this, or our fans want that, or they'll like me if I do this, or, oh, this is such a cool idea, like my fans are gonna love this. And you're right, if you're staring at a wall and you're seeing red because you're so tired, you're rushing out your content. Maybe it's not the best of the best because you're just so tired because you just want to get it out. And then that's when the negativity comes out. This isn't as good as the other episode, or this isn't good as this. Like, you've lost your touch, and then it comes in, and then you're like, everything, I've just rushed this out. I haven't slept in a week. I'm so tired. Why am I getting such negative feedback? Just because I wasn't able to make it as shiny as possible doesn't mean that it's not worth it. But then you just get trapped in your head, and then somebody else is getting all your new fans because they're over you, and then you're like, I can't believe I just did this for nothing. And then you're just spiraling out of thoughts, and just being like, okay, well, I guess this is good. And then the next episode you're back, you're like, oh, thank God.
Stassi, can I share something?
Yeah.
So when I first started doing this, for an entire season and a half, 2 seasons,
yeah,
I was putting out an episode a week. Every Friday I would get an episode out. And then I started getting a lot more complicated and detailed, and the production became a lot harder. Yeah. But even then, I was putting out an episode a week. And I think that's what people kind of got used to. But what people don't know is there were days, nights, where I was literally falling asleep sitting at my desk, falling asleep onto my keyboard, because it was 3:30 in the morning, and I was trying to get this out, and then my body was literally falling asleep on me. That is not healthy. I did that for a year and a half, almost 2 years. I can't do that anymore. That's just not a healthy way to create. That's how people burn out. And that's how I was going to burn out. And so I don't do that anymore. I'll create until I need to stop, but I'll let myself stop. And I think we have to do that. You get this whole we're going to lose our viewers to other creators. Well, newsflash, you're going to anyways, period, because people's attention spans are like this big. So you're going to lose your viewers to other people, and then you're going to get new ones. It's the life cycle of the fan base. That's just how content creation works, and you have to be okay with that. You can't kill yourself to hold on to your fan base for your health. You just can't do that.
Well, I definitely feel like that's really good advice, and I'm definitely going to be taking that because like right now I'm so tired. I'm running on like no sleep. I have literally restless sleeps. I will wake up at 3 a.m. being like, I didn't get to do this. Oh my God. This is supposed to come out in 3 days. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. We'll figure it out. Because everyone asks me all the time, like, do you sleep? And I'm like, sometimes. But like I go to bed at 10, I get up at 6. That's my rule. But they're like, oh, like how do you get everything out? And I'm like super ahead of everything. Like I have like 3 months out for all my stuff. That's why I'm able to be ahead. But I know not everyone can be that way, but it's definitely something that I will not be doing moving forward of not having. I am literally sitting on currently 42 podcasts that are waiting to come out between now and February that have already been filmed. Stuff that like the podcast that's coming out that came out Wednesday with Townie Sims. Also go listen to that. Love Disney Sims. But that was filmed in February.
Wow.
And it's coming out now. She had just started it. She's in like her second or third season now. So that's how far I'm always out, because I get a lot of comments in the last one being like, because I was talking about the latest expansion pack, which when I was filmed was Growing Together, not horses. So everyone's like, it's horses, you ass. And I'm like, yeah, but we were speculating about generations back in February and January. Right. So I'm not going to be doing that again of sitting on 3-4 months, 6 months of content because it ages. Right. But anyways, let's move on unless either of you guys want to continue talking about burnout. So we're going to talk about pride. We're going to talk about the LGBTQ plus community. I think I forgot the I. I'm so sorry. I try. I got a lot of flack when I did the roundtable when I hosted that I didn't do the proper full acronym. I think that's the correct way to say it. Alex, please educate this girl on saying it correctly. I'm so sorry.
Well, I'm sure there are people that are gonna get mad at you no matter what.
Yeah.
I love to just say the queer plus community because I'm talking about the entire freaking spectrum and of all the different ways to be queer. The last like full acronym that like I had been using for a while is LGBTQIA plus.
Yes.
But I do know that it's been updated recently with like another letter or two. So in my opinion, which people are welcome to get pissed at me for, I do not care. For the purpose of this podcast, why don't we just say the queer plus community and then it's not such a mouthful?
Yes. Yes. So what unique challenges do the queer community face as being content creators? This is something we talked about before. I literally had to Google it, being like, what could there be? Because something I didn't want to ham home on is something that really bothers me about corporations is, yes, let's talk about Pride in June. Like Pride is very important. Pride is important 365. Okay. So let's say Nike, we're going to put out rainbow shoes, but that's cool. They like it, but do they respect Pride the rest of the year, or is it all corporate based? So I wanted to stay away from being like, oh, like this is a pride themed podcast, because I mean we're going to talk about it, but I didn't want people to like, we spent like 30 minutes to an hour talking about everything else and now you're just tagging it in and using a rainbow. Cool, bro. So I mean that's something that bugs me, and I'm not part of the rainbow. Is that something that we'll get into that question? Is that something that can be bothersome to the queer community, is all these corporate people coming in and being like, yay, Pride, but then come July 1st, or like, what's Pride? And for till another year comes out, if that makes sense. I also did not want to be insensitive either.
I think what happens is there's no one person that can possibly speak for the entire queer community, right? So I'm just going to speak from my experience today.
Yeah.
There are absolutely going to be people in the queer community that are sensitive to things that I'm not sensitive to. And there are going to be people that like don't give a crap about the things that I'm like, hey, this really matters to me. I would say, like, from the standpoint of like corporations getting involved, in my personal opinion, I have seen some examples of corporations doing a better job. I think the point is like, hey, I don't mind. I'm actually really personally very thankful when I see a big company like Nike or like Apple or whoever else like putting out pride stuff, because I think it's important. Like, it it's almost like, like a battering ram, where like if you think about like a battering ram like trying to like knock down like I think it's just because I've been playing a Lord of the Rings game with my boyfriend, so I'm thinking of like them like knocking down like castle walls. Like, it's not just like one solid press, right? There has to be a rebound and then a press and then a rebound and a press. Okay, I think about like the way that corporations in their advertising being similar to that. Like, in my opinion, I don't think they need to have pride stuff year round. Not every company anyway. I think I love having options, but it doesn't need to be like their marketing campaign. But I love that like once a year they're like, bam, they fucking hit us with the pride stuff. And if all the companies are doing it at once, great. It's a really big push for society to make a shift. And then we pull back for a while and then bam, we hit them again, like every June. So in that sense, I think that's a positive thing. What's a negative thing about it that a lot of people in the queer community get upset about is companies that actually don't do anything helpful for the community other than they put a rainbow on their stuff for 1 month and they talk about it. They talk about pride and LGBTQIA plus rights, and then they don't actually change any of their company policies. Internally, they're treating employees really poorly, who for being queer, or it's like performative, right? And that's, I think, in my opinion, that's the only area that it really becomes problematic, when a company is like actually doing harmful things to the community, but then putting a rainbow on their product to try to get more sales during June.
The only reason I asked this is because, being a social media manager, I know in June, when I used to work for my previous job, I had to push as much rainbow as possible. They were a US based company, which was 100% Republican, and they were huge Trump supporters. So it was just, we do this to fit in, but that's as far as it went. And I used to fight with their head office all the time, being like, if we're going to do representation, we need to actually do it in our offices. Why is everybody a straight white male? Okay, that's really fucking weird. Why can't we have proper representation in this office? And guess what? I'm no longer there, so we can just take 2 and 2 together. I became a nuisance of always wanting to improve and always wanting to say, let's keep pushing boundaries instead of hiring another white male, another white straight male. You know what I mean? So I was just always a question I've always wanted to ask, just because I fought with it being, we're not going to sit here and be like, yeah, everybody's loved. By the way, we don't hire anybody unless they're straight. Right. So I just felt like, why don't just not do it then? Why lie? Why lie? Because I think that's even worse. To me, that's the worst. If you're gonna make people buy your pride products, but you actually don't do anything to better society besides take their money. So that's always the part that irked me as a social media manager, being like, let's just not do it. But anyways, let's talk about the queer community as content creators. Like, what's going on out there? Any advice?
Well, I think one of the things that's kind of there are a few different things that I have in mind to share.
Yeah.
One of them being, like, as far as history, content creators have done a really great job of making accurate history reports for the LGBTQIA plus community and Black history, both more visible.
Yes.
And I'm so thankful that for those content creators that have been like, hey, I'm going to take this on and I want to either do reporting on current events or sharing accurate like historical reports. And I think that's also could be probably a big burden to take on when like our education system is not putting the same amount of in focus or value behind Black history and queer history.
Yes.
So thank you to all the content creators who do this. It's amazing. I think another important thing to mention while we're on that kind of ties in with that mental health aspect of this. There's some like interesting statistics when it comes to mental health and the LGBTQI plus community. According to the HRC, which is the Human Rights Campaign, who is all about queer rights and activism, 4 in 10 LGBT youth, that's 42%, say that they live with non-accepting queer people, or sorry, people that don't accept them as queer people.
Yes.
And when we were talking about like belonging before, and like imagine you know, if you feel like you don't belong online, and how painful that is, now like magnify that to your home life. And so the pressure to conform and the fear about not fitting in can be really, really intense for queer people. And I think for content creators, sometimes content creation can actually be a wonderful escape from that and a way to find a community. And also as like an ally, recognizing like, hey, are there things that you could do that might help one of your fellow queer content creators feel like they fit in or belong, like having one on a podcast, right? Like this is wonderful. And then another statistic from the Trevor Project, 41% of LGBTQ young people seriously consider attempting suicide. And that's just in the past year. And that statistic was updated in 2023, I believe. So that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people. And when we're looking at that statistic compared to straight people, the numbers are significantly higher for queer youth. Last suicide statistic that's really interesting to me is that let's see, where was it? I might need to like take, oh, here we go. In 2021, men died by suicide 3.9 times more than women. So it's almost 4 men per 1 female suicide. Yeah. And this is also interesting. Just under 70%, it's 69.68% of suicide deaths in 2021 were white men. So I think there's an interesting phenomenon here and an interesting parallel. And these statistics were according to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. There's an interesting parallel to me that like both like white men, the top of societal like privilege, and queer youth amongst the lower and bottom parts of societal privilege both have extra high rates for suicide, and so which signals to me extra hard time with mental health, maybe getting mental health resources and also using those mental health resources and also their mental health in general. When I find parallels like that, I love to say like, okay, how can we fucking work together on this? How can we do better together?
I think that's crazy. Like you just literally blew my mind. I say all the time, like that's the crazy, like, oh, like, that's the craziest thing I've heard. That's the saddest thing I think I've heard on this podcast. It's really, really sad. And I think it, like, for like the white male privilege, I think it's just and we'll talk about men's health in a little bit, is you can't show emotion. You can't be like, I'm having a bad day. Your guy friends would be like, oh, you're a beep. And you can add that beep in to whatever you want to use your imagination. I think it's sexy to see a grown man cry and actually feel emotion. But a lot of like, so I'm in a like, so I work in an admin office. I think it's fascinating. All of us are women because there's no men that are admin, and all the techs are men. And I'm like, oh, that's a little sexist. When I think about it, I'm like, why is there no men that are admin? I think that's weird, and I don't like that for 2023. But all the men, like, I'll literally, my boss and the sales guy, they'll be like, oh, like, just Jen, send them out. Like, I'm like, he's already worked a 12 to 13-hour day. No, it's like, well, he needs it. Like, he'll toughen up, just get a coffee. I'm like, we're not horses. We're not, okay. Like, a coffee, a carrot's not gonna solve a situation here. And they're like, oh, they're grown men, just throw some dirt in it. It's not. I'm like, your whole team is experiencing burnout and exhaustion. Fucking throwing dirt and coffee at it is not going to fix it. We need to come up with a better solution, such as not being understaffed and underpaid and underworked. I think that's just the point. Like, you get to this point where you're constantly always working. You can never show your true emotion. And then to the point where you're just like, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. What is life? What's a life worth living if I can't cry? Or what, I can't, my family won't accept me, or anything on the lines of, oh, like, I have mental health issues. I talk about being dyslexic at work. I thought it would be, this is the first time I walked in straight from the gate and told them that I was dyslexic. Never done that before. I've kept it a secret. They make fun of it to my face. And I was like, I don't like that. I was having a really honest moment with you and explaining my struggles. So what does this say? If I walked to my boss right now and I was like, I have depression, I think they'd laugh in my face and be like, it's not real. It's in 2023. Kind of sad. But yeah, it's really sad.
And so thinking of that from the male perspective, I think, that when we talk about men's health, and June is Men's Health Month, and so we talk about things like prostate health and heart health and sexual health and all that. And one of the things we're starting to talk about is men's mental health. And so especially when we look at that dichotomy that we see between the white straight male and the queer teen are the highest statistically to attempt and complete suicide. It makes me wonder, and this is just kind of what came up in my mind is, there's stigma in both, right? Stigma is different, but there's stigma in both. So there's that inability. I'm not a man and I'm not a queer teen, but I just wonder, if it's partially part of the experience that they're having of saying, I can't feel safe. I don't feel safe with what I'm really experiencing in my life. I don't feel safe with who I am as a person because of the stigma that is being put on me. I don't feel safe of what I'm experiencing in my mental health because I've been giving these messages from the time I was a child that says, boys don't cry, that says, man up, that there's this tough guy persona that is the quintessential man, that if you're not masculine, that there's one way to be masculine, right? That masculine can't also be that that balance of emotion and expression. And these are the messages that are being taught in our society. So then you have these pressures, and and we also have veterans, and there's that whole statistic as well, but still, just kind of thinking of that as not as that psychological safety, which is foundational to us just being human, as psychological safety. And when that is compromised in whichever way, you're going to have these two ends of society that have these very tragic results and these very tragic statistics. And so being able to talk about that, supporting the organizations like the Trevor Project, who specifically are there for our Queer Plus. Thank you for giving that to me, Alex, at Queer Plus. I love that, the Queer Plus youth, because not many teens have that, especially queer teens, and supporting other organizations like suicide prevention line and the helpline 988 here in the States is important, because that is something that we can do. And one of the questions I think that I wondered about is, how do we be an ally? How do we be an ally to our Queer Plus community? How do we be an ally to even the white straight male? How do we be an ally in a way that we are destigmatizing access? And how are we destigmatizing that? So if there is access, so access is a whole other animal we don't address here, but even if there is access, how do we help as a society to make that access less shame-based? And we've talked about this on the last podcast, and I have to say this. I think one of the things that we have to stop doing is we have to stop using mental health terms as slurs. We have to stop calling people who are maybe having an emotional moment, they're bipolar. I don't see PhD after your name. Sit down. Right? We have to stop calling people crazy. We have to stop saying that, because that feeds into the stigma. And we also have a responsibility to help, help by talking about it, to help our communities by talking about it, by saying, it is 100% okay to not be okay. If you are a 6'4", I don't know, I'm really short, so everybody's taller than me, but you can be 6'4", 200 pounds, 300 pounds. I don't know how much a 6'4" person, big person, male, drive the truck, you could be the whole stereotype, and on the inside feel really broken and grieving and sad and anxious and have panic attacks. And maybe there's undiagnosed or diagnosed untreated ADHD there, or maybe there's trauma from your childhood or something you've experienced. You're human. And one of the things that I really love to remind people of when they say, well, I don't want to experience this weakness, is that you are strong because of who you are, and you have these human experiences because you're human. You grieve because you're human. You can have ADHD because you're human. You can have undiagnosed mental health challenges because you're human. It doesn't make you less strong. And I think if we can say that to more people and really help them believe that and start breaking down the stigma, I mean, that's why I'm sitting here as well. I don't know. I think that just kind of, for me, is the best way to be an ally.
I think you're the best ally. Sorry, Alex, go ahead.
Thank you.
I was going to say, Preach, Mom Cave. That was
Yes.
amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think if my tip is, a lot of this comes down to belonging and shame. And when we let people know that they belong, and when we have the courage to be bravely authentic, we not only help create belonging for ourselves, but also for other people. So my advice slash challenge to our listeners today is, if you want to help others in the queer community, if you want to help other humans with their mental health, challenge yourself each day to find some common ground with someone who has different experiences than you, or looks different than you, and is just someone you wouldn't expect yourself to connect with. You don't have to be their best friend or anything, but just see if there's a way that you can find some moment of commonality with someone you think you might not have anything in common with.
I think I love that. That is such fantastic advice, especially
Challenge
right now.
Accepted.
Yes. Well, because
I know,
right now,
I'm like, I'm gonna do this now.
well, just because like
I do it a lot, but I want to do it more intentionally.
I just feel like right now everybody, it's you're right or you're left, or you're right and you're wrong, and it's so negative. Like, somebody called me out on my cis privilege because I have periods. Because I was complaining because I have ovarian cysts, and I was on like Instagram, just like, I was like, if I could give up my period right now, I would. Like, I just, give me a hysterectomy. I'm over this. And somebody's like, you don't, like, well, I've always wanted to have a kid, and you have cis privilege, and I can't have a kid, so like, be thankful you can. And it took a minute out of me being like, I don't even know if I can have a kid, but okay, we'll go from that. But it's constantly being like I'm as pretty socialist as you get, pretty left socialist atheist. So anybody who's on the other side, you have a hard time just listening to them being like, science can prove you wrong in about 5 seconds, but okay, we'll go with the earth is flat. We'll go with that. But it's finding the common grounds of saying, why do you believe that the earth is flat? Why do you believe that? Is it a conspiracy theory because it makes more sense? Or do you do it because somebody who you respect, you told you that, and then you believe them? Like, I grew up in a very Republican home. I had really Republican values until I was 19. And then that was my dark period in life. And then real life slapped me in the face at 20, and saw what real world looked like. Definitely wasn't conservative values, I'll say that. So, but it's interesting now that I try, well, at least I can, but I'm the worst at just dismissing somebody really quickly. Or just saying like, oh, well, we don't share the same values, we're going to argue. What's even the point to try? And I think COVID had a really big impact of that, versus, the COVID versus not thinking COVID was real.
Stassi, you and I have talked before about that. We've talked before about the value of curiosity.
Yeah.
That's one thing as coaches. We live and breathe curiosity. It's just kind of the core of what we do as coaches. But it's important for everybody. There's such value in curiosity, because if we can lean into the space of people that are vastly different, even conflicting in our values. People can conflict your values, and it's okay. It's okay, provided they're respectful, or there's respect, I should say. But we can go, and I love that, Alex, because we can go into these challenges with curiosity. So if I come up against someone, and I have people in my family, and I'm just kind of a unicorn in my family, and I'm fine being unicorn. They love me for it. It's just me. But if we can go into these conversations and into these spaces with that curiosity to find, even if you can't find common ground, even if everybody has common ground, 100%, you can put 50,000 humans in a room, and there's common ground. And the common ground is that they're human. And so if we can go into majority of these spaces with others with curiosity, and so when somebody says something that is or is believing something that is against or even different to our core values and beliefs, it's okay to feel uncomfortable if you feel uncomfortable. But if you can lean into that with curiosity and even ask, tell me why you think that, then you can connect on a human level. It takes two people to connect on a human level, but you can still walk away from a conversation with someone without labeling, without putting someone in a category that maybe they're not in, or that we're placing things that feel safer. You can walk away from the conversation with that curiosity to say, well, I mean, I didn't really get that question answered of why they believe that, but that's their belief, and I can still hold firm in mind, because if really truly we're confident in who we are, it's not going to matter what other people believe. I said what I said is not going to matter, because we can still behave and live and advocate and do the things that are important to us, for us. We can still do that with other people who maybe believe differently. So the curiosity is the key to really finding that common ground. And I love that challenge, Alex. Accepted.
100% accepted. Well, I think this is a really good spot to cap off this interview. I want to thank the Mom Cave and Alex for coming here today. I've learned a lot. I hope everyone listening to this takes this and learns and just grows and becomes a better person, and to be kind to one another, because that's the secret, is to be kind to yourself and to be kind to everyone around you. I do want to do where we can find your work, the Mom Cave. Where can we find your work?
Best place would be Linktree, TMC Creative, but you can find me on YouTube is the Mom Cave. You can find me all over Instagram. Best place to start would be TMC Creative. I am private, but if you go ahead and request, I'll almost always say, hey, come on over. And you can find me on TikTok as TMC Creative. It's just a bunch of trash there right now, but feel free to come on over. But those are the main places. You can also find me on Twitter, which is at the Mom Cave 1.
I love it. Well, please go check out the Mom Cave. Alex, where can we find your amazing work?
I am Coach Alex Ray on Instagram and TikTok, and coachalexray.com if you want the podcast or any other links. So it's called the Queer Confidence Podcast.
I love it. The links are going to be below. Please go check out Alex's podcast. And then when you are ready to come back, we will be here to champion you. But come back when you are ready, not when we are ready, because we're always ready. But whenever you feel,
thank you.
You are welcome. But Alex, it was such a pleasure to get to know you today and get to learn more of your story. And Mom Cave, always, thank you so much for coming back here today.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Stassi. It's been a pleasure.
It has been an absolute pleasure. And I want to wish both you guys a great rest of your night. Please go check out these two amazing creators. If you like what I do, please consider subscribing to Patreon. I really do appreciate it. It encourages me to being able to keep doing what I'm able to do, which is bring content to you and having real life conversations that maybe some people are too scared to have. And let's end stigma together of mental health and any other issues that have lots of stigma behind them, and the only way we're going to do it is together. So please go check out the Mom Cave and Coach Alex Ray, and please go check out the rest of the series of Real Life with Stassi. I do post episodes periodically throughout the month, so please go check those out and have a great rest of your night, you guys. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.